When you buy a physical building for your business, you usually get exactly what you see. Like 4 walls, a roof, a foundation. It's tangible. You own the bricks, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a permanent asset. You have absolute control over the architecture, for better or worse.
Right. If you want to knock down a wall to make the lobby bigger, you just hire a crew and you knock it down. But when you start talking about enterprise e-commerce software, suddenly you're not buying a building anymore. You're buying a very expensive, very fast escalator. And the landlord tells you exactly where it goes.
And I mean, the landlord is also constantly changing the layout of the lobby while you're trying to run a business inside it.
Which is really the perfect way to look at our mission for this deep dive. Today, we are cutting straight through the enterprise marketing fluff. We're looking at Shopify Plus, based on this really comprehensive 20-minute enterprise decision guide and TCO analysis we have as our source material.
Yeah, the total cost of ownership analysis is eye-opening, to say the least.
Oh, totally. We want to find out what Shopify Plus actually unlocks, what the math really looks like over a 3-year period, and crucially, when a brand should just completely run away from it and build their own, building,
Right.
a legacy system like Adobe Commerce or Salesforce.
Right, because if you are a developer, an e-commerce brand owner scaling up or really just trying to figure out how modern internet retail works, you have to know what you are actually buying here.
Exactly.
Because the e-commerce landscape in 2026 has shifted so dramatically away from bespoke, custom-built monoliths. It's no longer about paying an agency millions of dollars to build every feature from scratch. It's all about integration, deployment speed, and really understanding the hidden trade-offs in your contract.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the biggest illusion in the room. There is a surprising truth right out of the gate when you look under the hood of this ecosystem. Shopify doesn't actually have a product called Enterprise.
No, they don't. It's purely marketing shorthand.
Really? It's just a marketing term?
Yeah, pretty much. When sales teams or industry analysts use the word enterprise, what you are actually buying is Shopify Plus. It's the tier just above their standard advanced plan. They take that Plus foundation and they layer it with their native B2B features, Shopify Markets for, international currency, POS Pro for retail, and maybe a headless storefront.
But the core platform itself.
The underlying database and engine, it's the exact same machine as the advanced tier.
So if the underlying engine is exactly the same, why on earth would a CFO approve an upgrade? I mean, what is the actual trigger that forces a brand to move from advanced to plus? Because it's clearly not just about hitting some magic revenue threshold.
All right, it comes down to 5 very specific capability gates, and these are binary features. You either need them or you don't. The most critical one is the service level agreement, or SLA.
Ah, the uptime guarantee.
Exactly. Advanced stores run on the same cloud infrastructure, sure, but Plus gives you a contractually guaranteed 99.99% checkout uptime.
Which is everything. If you are a massive brand doing, like a highly anticipated Black Friday drop, if your site goes down for 10 minutes during a massive sneaker release, you don't just lose millions of dollars. You lose customer trust permanently. So that's gate 1. What are the others?
So the second gate involves organizational structure. Plus allows you to spin up to 9 expansion stores under one central corporate umbrella.
Oh, I see. So if you are selling in North America, but you need a completely separate, localized storefront for Japan, plus maybe a distinct wholesale portal for your distributors,
Yeah.
you need those expansion stores.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just run global operations out of one single admin panel.
Right. That makes total sense. And the third gate.
Third, you get significantly higher limits for Shopify functions. This is essentially a bigger CPU budget for your custom code.
Like for discounts and shipping.
Right. If you have complex discount rules or weird shipping logic, you need that higher limit so your code doesn't get throttled during checkout. Fourth is native B2B with company accounts.
Which means what, practically speaking?
It unlocks built-in price lists and specific payment terms like net 30 or net 60 directly tied to a corporate entity rather than an individual shopper.
Got it. And the fifth gate.
Unlimited staff accounts with organization admin. And I know this sounds mundane until you talk to an IT director. It unlocks SAML single sign-on and audit logs.
Oh, let me translate that into business value for a second, because that is huge. Single sign-on means if a rogue employee leaves the company, your IT department can just click one single button to lock them out of every system instantly, rather than hunting down shared passwords on sticky notes, right?
Yes, exactly. And the audit logs mean if someone accidentally deletes an entire product category, you can see exactly who did it and when. is the foundation of InfoSec compliance for any modern enterprise.
So thinking about it this way, upgrading to Plus is kind of like buying a VIP pass at a massive amusement park.
I like that analogy.
Right. You are riding the exact same roller coaster, the core infrastructure, as the regular ticket holders on the advanced tier. But the VIP pass guarantees you won't wait in line during a rush, which is that 99.99% SLA, and it gives you access to the security back rooms, which is the org admin. But the track itself, same track.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it changes the entire procurement conversation. Because if a brand looks at those 5 VIP perks and realizes they don't actually need at least 2 of them, the conversation is no longer about technology.
It's just economic.
Entirely economic. They should honestly just stick to the advanced tier, which can easily run a high-performing 8-figure brand without breaking a sweat. You only buy the VIP pass if you actually plan on using the VIP access.
But let's say you do need the VIP pass. Let's talk about the biggest perk of all, which is the checkout. Because since that contractually guaranteed checkout uptime is the main draw, we really need to examine why Shopify's checkout is their biggest competitive moat.
Oh, it is arguably the most valuable piece of real estate on the internet right now. We are talking about a hosted PCI Level 1 checkout.
Let's define that real quick for everyone. PCI Level 1 means it meets the highest possible security standard for handling credit card data, which basically shifts all that legal and technical liability off your brand's shoulders and onto Shopify's.
Right. And beyond the security, it runs Shop Pay, which offers that seamless one-tap checkout for over 100 million returning customers. But the real magic is the scale of the optimization.
Yeah, the A/B testing is wild.
It is. Shopify's checkout is continuously A/B tested across more than 28,000 global brands simultaneously. We're talking Glossier, Mattel, Heinz, Allbirds.
Which means if Shopify discovers that moving the Buy Now button, like 2 pixels to the left, increases conversion by a fraction of a percent for Mattel, they just deploy that learning across the entire ecosystem.
Exactly. You inherit the performance optimizations, the fraud detection signals, and the conversion engineering of a multi-billion-dollar network, essentially for free.
You just can't outbuild that. I don't care how big your internal development team is, a chief financial officer is never going to approve the budget to try and replicate what 28,000 brands are testing in real time.
No, never. But to maintain that bulletproof ecosystem, Shopify had to make a drastic, highly controversial change. Between 2024 and 2025, they completely deprecated checkout.liquid.
Right, the old way of customizing the checkout page using their proprietary liquid coding language. They just killed it.
They forced every Plus merchant to move to what they call checkout extensibility. So instead of letting developers hack away at the core code of the checkout page, brands now have to use isolated functions, web pixels, and structured UI extensions.
Stuff that sits neatly on top of the checkout.
Exactly, without touching the foundational code.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If Shopify is completely locking down the checkout pipeline and killing liquid, aren't they basically telling enterprise brands, hey, you aren't allowed to fully customize your most important page anymore? I mean, aren't they taking away the very control an enterprise pays for?
Yeah, and that is exactly the pushback they get from legacy developers who are used to having God mode access to the server. But you have to look at the underlying trade-off here. Shopify Plus forces you to trade maximum flexibility for extreme speed.
So an opinionated model.
Right. By enforcing an opinionated model, meaning the platform strictly dictates how you customize things, you eliminate the risk of a developer writing bad code that crashes the checkout during a traffic spike.
Which is the whole point of paying for the SLA anyway.
Exactly. And because of this structured approach, replatforms happen incredibly fast. If you are migrating to Plus, you are looking at a 4 to 9 month timeline.
Wow. Compared to what?
Well, if you want total unbridled freedom to build whatever you want on Adobe Commerce or Salesforce, you are staring down an 18 to 24 month build.
Because in an opinionated system, you aren't reinventing the wheel. You're literally just choosing the hubcaps.
I love that, yes. And you see this consolidation everywhere in the Plus stack. It's all about collapsing complexity. 5 years ago, an enterprise might have a Magento build for their B2B wholesale, a separate global integration for handling international taxes, and a standalone Lightspeed system for their physical retail stores.
And now,
Plus collapses B2B, Markets, and POS Pro into one unified admin panel. When you add in native tools like Launchpad for scheduling sales and Flow to handle back-office automation, the engineering overhead drops massively.
okay, so you're trading total flexibility for a checkout that converts like crazy, replaces 3 different software stacks, and launches in 6 months. That sounds amazing, But what is that conversion engine actually costing you when the bill comes due?
Mm.
Let's break down the actual 3-year total cost of ownership from the source.
This is where the math gets brutal if you aren't prepared for it, because the cost structure of Shopify Plus is variable, not flat.
Let's look at the baseline first. The platform fee for Plus is roughly $2,300 a month on a 3-year term, which, for a true enterprise, $2,300 a month sounds like a rounding error. It almost sounds entirely too cheap.
That's because there's a hook.
The 0.25% hook.
Right. Once a brand hits about $920,000 a month in gross merchandise value, the pricing model automatically converts. You stop paying the flat fee and start paying a 0.25% revenue share, which caps out at $40,000 a month.
So let's run the numbers on a hypothetical scenario from the guide. A brand doing $25 million a year in revenue. Over a 3-year period, that software license fee is sitting around $62,000 to $87,000 a year. Honestly, that's still incredibly reasonable for enterprise software.
It is, but the software license is just the tip of the iceberg. The real giant hiding underwater, the thing that actually drains the budget, is the payment processing fee.
Yes. For that same $25 million brand, the payment processing is going to cost them between $550,000 to $770,000 a year.
Which is a massive jump.
It is. That pushes their actual total cost of ownership when you factor in third-party apps and agency retainers for maintenance to around $1 million annually.
And that introduces a critical, often misunderstood mechanic, the penalty tax.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
Yeah, so Shopify desperately wants you to use their native gateway, Shopify Payments. If you choose not to use it in a supported region, maybe because you have a long-standing, highly negotiated rate with Stripe or Adyen and Shopify hits you with a third-party transaction fee of about 0.15%.
Let me bring in another analogy here. This is the classic cheap printer, expensive ink business model. The printer, the software license itself is basically given away at a fraction of its true value to get you in the door.
Yeah.
But you have to buy their ink, the payment processing, which is where they make their actual margin.
Exactly. And to take that analogy further, if you try to buy generic ink like using Stripe instead of Shopify payments, Shopify essentially alters the printer to charge you a 0.15% penalty fee every single time you print a page.
That is wild.
On $50 million in revenue processed through Stripe, that's an extra $75,000 a year in pure platform tax, just for the privilege of not using their ecosystem.
So how do you actually negotiate with them? Because the rack rate is rarely what enterprise brands actually pay when they sit down at the table.
Yeah.
You don't just accept the sticker price on the printer ink.
Well, the primary leverage you have is time. Shopify sales teams are evaluated heavily on contract length and total annualized value. So a smart brand will offer a 3-year commitment upfront.
Okay, and in exchange.
You demand a payment fee waiver for the first 6 to 12 months while you migrate your systems, and you ask for ramp pricing, meaning you pay half price or nothing at all during the actual build phase before the site goes live.
But even with that massive payment processing costs and the penalty taxes, Plus typically saves a brand between $300,000 and $1.5 million over 3 years, compared to a custom build on Adobe or Salesforce.
Right, because you aren't paying a team of 20 developers a massive salary to maintain a bespoke checkout pipeline for 2 years. The operational savings offset the platform tax.
Right. But what if you do want to build something totally bespoke? What if you refuse to play the locked-in game? The tech industry is constantly pushing this concept of headless architecture. For anyone unfamiliar, this means completely decoupling the front-end visual layer, the head that the customer sees, from the back-end commerce engine. And Shopify heavily promotes their own headless tools now, right?
They do. Their headless stack relies on 3 main components to make that decoupling work. First, you have the storefront API. Think of it as the waiter taking the order from your custom front end and bringing it back to the Shopify kitchen.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second is Hydrogen, which is their React and Remix-based storefront framework. In simple terms, React and Remix are modern coding frameworks that let developers build hyper-fast, highly interactive pages without needing to reload the entire browser window every time you click a button.
And the third piece.
Third is Oxygen, which is the global edge hosting environment for those Hydrogen apps, and that's actually included with your Plus subscription.
So what does this all mean for the bottom line? Because going headless sounds incredibly complex. I mean, according to the source, you are adding 20 to 40% to the initial build cost immediately.
Yep.
Plus, you have to hire 1 or 2 extra dedicated engineers just for daily maintenance. And the worst part, you lose all the native Shopify theme features, the built-in search, the native cart UI, the plug-and-play app blocks.
It's a huge trade-off.
It sounds like putting a Formula One engine in a daily commuter car. Sure, it's incredibly fast and it sounds cool at tech conferences, but do you really need to spend 40% more just to sell t-shirts? Is headless just an ego-driven tech trend for brands that want to feel sophisticated?
Honestly, for a standard direct-to-consumer brand selling apparel or beauty products, yes, it is often a highly costly distraction. The native templated themes are more than capable of handling massive volume.
So when does it actually make sense?
We have to look at when headless does pay off. It becomes absolutely necessary when sub-second page load times are a board-level KPI that dictates revenue, or if a brand relies on highly interactive, app-like product configurators.
Like what specifically?
Imagine customizing a high-end bicycle or a piece of modular furniture with real-time 3D rendering and pricing updates. In those cases, the standard theme architecture will buckle under the weight, and you really need that React framework.
So it's about knowing your exact competitive advantage. Where does Shopify Plus flat out lose to other composable headless first tools like commerce tools?
But lose is when your complexity lives entirely on the back end. If you are running a multi-seller marketplace where you need to calculate complex vendor payouts and split shipments.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a nightmare on a standard setup.
Exactly. Or if you need a highly bespoke order management system that routes inventory across hundreds of localized warehouses. Or you deal in multi-level B2B contract pricing that changes based on commodity fluctuations. Shopify's opinionated model will fight you every single step of the way there.
So in those scenarios, you are better off with a fully composable build where you control every single microservice.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've mapped out your architecture, you know your true costs, you've either bought into or decided against the headless hype. Before you sign that 3-year contract, you need to know how to actually run the platform day to day. And in 2026, you cannot talk about daily operations without talking about AI.
You really can't. AI is embedded in everything now. But Shopify's approach is a bit different. Rather than selling AI as a separate, clunky add-on, they are baking it directly into the admin and storefront layers as a core utility.
There are 3 main tools being rolled out right now, according to the deep dive source. Sidekick, which is an admin copilot that you can converse with to run reports or build discount codes. Shopify Magic, which generates product copy for massive catalogs. And Semantic Search, which actually understands customer intent.
Right, the search is fascinating.
Yeah, so if a customer types warm winter jacket under $200, the search engine understands the concepts of warm and winter without you needing to manually tag all your products. But I have to push back hard here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Every single software vendor in 2026 is slapping AI on their dashboard to inflate their valuation. Is Sidekick actually moving the needle for these brands, or is it just a shiny object designed to justify the enterprise price tag? If I use Shopify Magic to write my copy, but I still have to pay a human editor to review all 10,000 SKUs because the AI might hallucinate that a cotton shirt is made of silk, am I actually saving any money?
It's a completely valid skepticism. A lot of AI feature stuffing is just shiny objects. But to answer your question, yes, you are still saving money because the practical value for enterprise teams is about scale and velocity. Editing an AI-generated draft takes a fraction of the time of blank page generation.
That's a good point.
AI allows these massive brands to compress their merchandising and customer experience headcount per $1 million in revenue.
Even with the hallucination risk.
Oh, you absolutely must have an editorial kill switch. Every piece of AI-generated content still requires human review to ensure it doesn't go completely off-brand or invent features that don't exist.
Right.
It is an assistant designed to clear away the manual labor of data entry. It's not a replacement for a brand director.
And speaking of control and governance, that ties right into data residency, which is a huge deal for international enterprises.
It is a massive limitation to be aware of. If you are heavily regulated like the European public sector or certain financial services, and you require guaranteed in-region data pinning.
Meaning your customer data can never physically leave servers located in Germany, for example.
Exactly. Shopify doesn't offer that in the granular way a custom AWS build does. Your data lives where Shopify decides it lives across their global network. For some strict procurement teams, that is a hard stop.
Which leads us to the ultimate procurement question. What happens when things go wrong? What is the exit strategy? Because getting married is easy, the divorce is what costs you. If a brand wants to leave Shopify Plus after 3 years, what can they actually take with them?
The good news is your core business data is largely portable. Customers, products, orders, and inventory can be extracted relatively cleanly via their API. Your storefront theme code can just be downloaded as a zip file.
But the lock-in, how do they get you?
The lock-in lives in the ecosystem and the proprietary infrastructure, your checkout pipeline. Completely proprietary. You have to rebuild your entire checkout experience from scratch on a new platform. Your custom Shopify functions code, tied specifically to their runtime environment so it is useless anywhere else. And the most painful one, all those Shop Pay tokens and saved credit cards.
Oh, wow. Wait, so you cannot just transfer those saved credit cards over to a new payment processor like for like?
You cannot. They belong to the Shop Pay network.
That is a terrifying realization for a brand owner. If you decide to leave Shopify, every single loyal customer who is used to a frictionless one-click checkout suddenly has to manually re-enter their credit card details, their billing address, and their shipping info on your new site.
Yep.
That friction alone will completely tank conversion rates for months while you try to retrain your customers.
And it highlights why preparedness is non-negotiable. Enterprise teams should perform an annual export drill. Take a full data export every few quarters and see if your engineering team can port it into an alternative platform sandbox within a week. If you can't, your technical debt and lock-in are far more severe than your contract suggests. A fire drill for your data is the only way to know you aren't completely trapped.
I love that. A fire drill for your data.
Yeah.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here, from SLAs to payment penalties. Let's synthesize this. The golden rule from all of this analysis is pretty clear. Default to Shopify Plus, unless you can articulate a back-end differentiator that your competition does not have.
Exactly.
If your competitive edge is your brand identity, your merchandising, and your speed to market, Plus is going to save you a year of engineering headaches. If your edge is a hyper-custom order management system or crazy marketplace mechanics, you need to look elsewhere.
Simply put, don't build what you can rent unless building it is the exact reason customers choose to buy from you in the first place.
But, thinking about all of this, thinking about how streamlined and managed that checkout pipeline has become, and how Shopify gives a startup the exact same conversion tools as massive giants like Glossier and Mattel, I want to leave you, our listener, with a thought to mull over.
It's a big question.
It really is.
Yeah.
If the digital checkout, the uptime, and all the standard e-commerce features are becoming entirely commoditized by platforms like Shopify, meaning everybody has access to the exact same lightning-fast digital experience, where does brand differentiation go next?
Right.
Will the future of competing for a customer shift entirely away from the website? Will brands have to compete solely on physical, real-world community building, wild product innovation, or maybe even immersive VR commerce simply because the traditional digital storefront is now essentially a solved problem?
When the foundation of the building is perfect for everyone, you have to build a much more interesting experience inside to get people to visit.
Or, to bring it back to where we started, when everyone is riding the exact same fast, shiny escalator, you've got to make sure the floor you're taking them to is actually worth the trip. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, keep looking under the hood, and we'll catch you on the next one.